Hello and welcome to another 7 stories in 7 minutes. Well, for the rest of the world, we in the UK enjoyed an extra hour in bed last night. Did you remember to turn your clocks back? I did. And yes, I do still have clocks that I have to turn back. But yes, we're officially operating now on Greenwich Mean Time for all of you abroad that are watching us. So, just before the clocks went back last night, there was uproar in the streets of London. You probably won't see this on the BBC or on Sky, but lucky for us, there were plenty of people reporting about it, including GB News. Last night, columns of masked Muslim men chant Allah Akbar in London in protest against a UKIP demonstration. So UKIP were planning on a protest in Whitehall. Well, as you can imagine, it's all kicked off. And this is UKIP, and you can see they've got their banners there, Islamist invaders not welcome in Britain. And then it all turned very nasty. And there were many men dressed in black, flying flags of Islam and Pakistan. You can see what was on the streets of Tower Hamlets last night. And you don't see a policeman in sight, do you? Or a police officer in sight? Nobody, anywhere. And yet, it was the UKIP march that were moved out. Here you can see the crowds. This is from 2C TV, so Maya 2C was reporting on it live. You can see there's not a yellow high-vis or a police officer to be seen. And this was going on in Tower Hamlets last night. And it's all extremely worrying. I'll leave that there. But going on to story 2, this came out in the Sunday Express and also GB News as well. And I think it's very shocking considering how many people we have in the UK who are homeless or going through forced evictions, desperately trying to find a roof over their heads. Because here in the Sunday Express, 90% of councils will house migrants by the end of the year. Excuse me, we are at the end of October now, that's 8 weeks, and we're going to have 90% of councils will be housing migrants by the end of the year. Migrants will be pretty much everywhere, and then you can see on GB News 9 in 10 councils will be housing asylum seekers. Tens of thousands of migrants will be handed homes across the land, paid for by you, but not inhabited by you. Think on. Let's turn our attention to medicines, because you know how I do love to focus on the MHRA, and we know that their primary concern is patient safety, right? So coming up 3rd to the 9th of November, we've got Med Safety Week. Patients for patient safety. Well, we all know a lot about patient safety, don't we? But they're celebrating, celebrating 10 years of medicine safety. Oh, and if you're watching Lawrence Talon, MHRA, we still have no notification of a board meeting. So I'm presuming, unless I hear from you otherwise, that the board meetings will now not be held in public and we, the public, will be barred from them. Is that correct? I'm not sure. Anyway, let's keep our attention turned on Med Safety Week, because WHO, the World Health Organization, they are also celebrating the 10th anniversary of Med Safety Week in the name of patient safety. And I just want to highlight this to you. Just notice that at the bottom you'll see where I've highlighted it in pink, I've also got some bold next to it, and those are my comments, right? I've added this. So patients taking ownership of their care, and I've written hashtag look after yourself. Bringing the voices of patients and people to the forefront of healthcare, and I've written hashtag collecting data. Patient, family and community partnerships with health professionals, healthcare providers, policymakers and researchers. And I've written hashtag research and clinical trials, aka experiments on you. So much for med safety. And talking about med safety, well, I don't think we've got much of it, because the next slide will show you some shocking statistics brought out by the National Audit Office of costs of clinical negligence. Now, please freeze the screen for all these statistics, but these are just a few. So 3.6 billion is the estimated cost arising from clinical negligence claims settled in England. This is just England in 2024 to 2025. 3.6 billion. There were 13,329 number of clinical negligence claims settled in 2024-2025. I'll let you look at the statistics there, but it is quite shocking. Let's turn our attention to America. Because of the government shutdown, millions of Americans are at risk of losing food stamps next month. Now, this is very serious. People don't realise how many in America rely on food stamps to feed their children. And these have effectively been cut, so it could run out, literally. And they're talking about 42 million Americans will not have food. So keep an eye on that story, because whilst all those Americans won't be able to put food on their table, President Trump is very busy demolishing some of the White House, don't you know, because he wants a golden ballroom, honestly. So this story in BBC News, the decades-old exemption that lets Trump fast-track the White House rebuild. There he is with a picture of it, very proud. And I blew it up a little bit because you can see everything's gold, isn't it? Everything gold, and a bit crass in my opinion, but that's just my opinion. But you can see the demolition works and what he's actually chopping down. It's the east wing of the White House. And we're going to finish on a couple of libraries that you may not have heard about, because libraries are always at the forefront of my attention because we read a lot, right? Or do we? But this is the National Data Library, gov.uk, realising the potential of a national data library. Oh, that's a good idea, you think to yourself. This is for the public good. Of course it is. It's for the public good, for you and me. I don't think so, because as you'll see, they're working with government, researchers, the public to get data access. Data, it's all about data. And finally, finishing on libraries, well, Oxford, Larry Ellison. You remember he's buying that pub, the Eagle and Child in Oxford, as well as most of the other colleges in Oxford. Well, the Bodleian Library, because I've always been saying, isn't it, Oxford, something's going on at Oxford. Have you heard of the Bodleian Library? The Bodleian Library is full of magical books. Magic, witchcraft, very precious books that maybe some of them have been kept hidden for many years. I'll say no more, but if you haven't heard of the Bodleian Library, go and have a look. I think you'll find it quite interesting. Anyway, thank you for watching, thank you for listening. If you like, please share, and don't forget, however doomy and gloomy it gets, keep smiling. And P.S. I hope you've been enjoying the 7/7s we've been putting out every single night. We really are trying to increase the content. We can't promise, but I'm going to try really hard to get out a 7/7 every single night with a few Debbie's dots in between. So keep tuned and keep smiling.